The movie begins in Mexico, where kidnapping is rampant. Every hour, someone is abducted and 70% of the victims are killed. The scene shifts to John Creasy, a former CIA officer traveling to Mexico to meet his old friend, Paul Rayburn. Paul runs a security firm in Mexico City. John was once a top-tier operative, renowned for his exceptional skills in tracking and eliminating high-value targets. However, after a personal tragedy, John decided to leave the job and begin a new chapter in his life. John asks Paul if they will ever be absolved from what they did in the CIA. Paul says he doesn't know, then proceeds to advise John to moderate his alcohol consumption. He asks John about his current engagement, to which John replies that he has been doing nothing for a while now. Paul suggests he takes up a bodyguard job, as many people in the city need bodyguards due to the rampant kidnappings. John is reluctant as he thinks his drinking will get in the way. Meanwhile, in a restaurant nearby, a Mexico City automaker, Samuel Ramos, is talking to his family lawyer, Jordan Kalfas. They discuss the market's condition, the overwhelming debts burdening the Ramos family, and the alarming rise in kidnappings across Mexico. Jordan reminds Ramos he needs to hire a bodyguard for her daughter's kidnapping insurance policy to take effect. Ramos agrees to hire a bodyguard to protect his cherished daughter. Paul convinces John to take a bodyguard position for the Ramos. Later, John is in a car with Samuel, who glances at his profile and discovers that he once worked for the CIA. Impressed, Samuel questions why John has settled for a bodyguard job when he could secure a much better position. John admits his heavy drinking has dulled his reflexes, making him unfit for government work. Samuel assures him that his drinking isn't an issue, as long as he protects his daughter, but advises him to keep the alcohol problem a secret from his wife. They arrive at Samuel's house, where John meets his wife, Lisa, who is pleased that he's American. She takes to him immediately, feeling that he is the perfect fit to be her daughter's bodyguard. Lisa then calls for their daughter, Lupita, affectionately known as Pita, a lively and cheerful young girl. The little girl greets John and eagerly gives him a tour of her house. As they chat, she reveals that he is her fifth bodyguard and hopes he won't leave like the others. She shows him a pet parrot left behind by the last bodyguard. Despite John's somber demeanor, Pita quickly warms up to him and even names her teddy bear after him, John Creasy. The next day, while in Pita's room, John studies the map of her school to assess the threat level en route to the school. He's trying to concentrate, but the parrot keeps making noise, frustrating him. Without hesitation, he opens the cage, allowing the bird to fly away. The next morning, on their way to school, Pita bombards John with questions. She asks if being a black bodyguard in Mexico is a good thing, to which John replies that time will tell. She then brings up the alarming rise in kidnappings, 24 cases just in the past week. As Pita fires off one question after another, they arrive at her school. Before heading inside, she asks John to come with her as he has to sign in. Inside, she introduces him to her teacher, who studies John closely and remarks that he carries deep sorrow from his past. She advises him to read the Bible and recites a few verses. To her surprise, John responds with verses of his own, revealing that he already does. While Pita is at school, John waits outside. After school, she resumes her endless questioning on their way home. She asks if he enjoyed school as a kid, but he admits he didn't because it wasn't as fun or well-equipped as hers. As Pita keeps playfully pestering him, John finally tells her he's her bodyguard, not her friend, and she should stop asking so many questions. Pita feels hurt by John's abrupt demeanor, and when the car stops, she moves to the back seat in silence. John realizes he has upset her. Back home, Lisa tries making conversation, but John makes it clear he's not a talkative person and he's only there to do his job. He says maybe he's not a good fit for Pita, but Lisa urges him to stay on and informs him she would ride along with them to school the next day. That night, haunted by his past and consumed by guilt and alcohol, John attempts to end his life with the bullet that he'd been carrying for a while, but the gun misfires. Confused, he calls Paul, but he's ambiguous with his questions. But Paul understands what he tried to do. He urges him to stay strong. Outside in the rain, John is unaware that Pita has been watching from her window with furrowed eyebrows. She seems to understand his pain. The next morning, John drives Pita and her mother to school. He notices a car tailing them and asks Pita for a pencil. Instead, being sharp-minded, Pita writes down the car's license plate number herself. Later, at Peta's swimming competition, John watches as she gives her best but finishes third. On the way back, she expresses doubt in herself, but John reassures her, telling her she swims faster than all the others but hesitates before jumping in. Their bond deepens as he coaches her every day to overcome her sonophobia. With John's training, Peta overcomes her sonophobia and gains more confidence in the water. On the day of the race, Peta's parents couldn't be there. They had business abroad, but she had John by her side cheering her on. She wins the competition, and they celebrate together. The bond between John and Peta deepened as they shared meaningful experiences. Their laughter and smiles painted a stark contrast to John's once dark and isolated existence. For the first time in years, he discovers a sense of happiness and purpose. This newfound light in his life leads him to abandon his destructive habits. He gives up drinking and no longer seeks to end his own life. Peta's presence has given John a renewed reason to live, pulling him out of the shadows of his past. Peta's piano lessons begins and John takes her there, but she tells him she prefers swimming, but her dad says no. John gives her tips on how to get herself expelled from the piano lessons. However, as he steps outside, he spots the same car that had been following them earlier. At the same time, 2 federal police officers block the street, confirming his suspicion that something is wrong. Realizing an abduction attempt is imminent, he orders Peta to run as she comes out from the piano lesson. A gunfight erupts, and John manages to kill 4 of the attackers, including 2 corrupt officers, but he is severely wounded, and Peta is taken. John is taken to the hospital and placed under police custody for shooting 2 officers. As news of the kidnapping spreads, the police chief holds a press conference to address the situation. Journalist Mariana Guerrero questions the official story. She asks, if the police officers were off duty, what were they doing there in police uniform? Miguel Manzano, a police detective, seems to share her doubts. The commander has no justification. He says the fact remains. John killed 2 police officers. Meanwhile, Peta's parents are overwhelmed with grief over their daughter's kidnapping at the Ramos residence. Police Lieutenant Victor Fuentes from the Anti-Kidnapping Division is also present, offering his support and expertise. The kidnapper makes contact, demanding a $10 million ransom for Peta's safe return. The Ramos agrees and Abade is instructed by the kidnappers. However, at the ransom drop, the kidnappers are ambushed, leading to the death of the ringleader's nephew. Enraged, he blames the Ramos family and declares that Peta is lost to them forever as punishment. In a last-ditch effort to save her daughter, Lisa grabs the phone and pleads with the kidnapper, trying to negotiate for Peta's release. However, her efforts is futile. He responds with chilling indifference, telling her it's too late, that he wishes he had spoken with her earlier. With John's safety at risk, Manzano and Paul secretly move him to a secure location. Once they arrived, Manzano shows John a series of pictures, but to their disappointment, he doesn't recognize any of the individuals. Manzano then reveals a shocking truth. The corrupt officers were part of La Hermandad, a powerful syndicate of corrupt officials, police, and criminals, who engage in horrific crimes across Mexico. As John's health improves, he returns to the scene of the kidnapping and searches for any clues that might lead to Peta's whereabouts. Mariana approaches him and warns him that La Hermandad is a dangerous group to take on by himself. She then offers to help John with the intel she has gathered on La Hermandad. Poised for vengeance, John promises Lisa that he will kill everyone involved in Peta's death. Later, he reads Peta's diary and discovers how much she truly cared for him. While going through her diary, he comes across the car number she had written and contacts Mariana to find out who it's registered to. With Paul's support, John manages to gather a small arsenal of weapons and equipment. Using the license information from Mariana, John tracks down his first target, Jorge Ramirez, the car owner. He interrogates him brutally, cutting off his finger to force him to reveal the necessary information before killing him in a show of intent. He leads him to a club where John confronts 3 of La Hermandad henchmen. After taking down the middleman, known as Jersey Boy, and another criminal, he learns that the ringleader is someone known only as the Voice. John retrieves an incriminating ATM card along with another kidnapped girl. He calls Mariana to the club and hands both over to her. She also reveals that Fuentes is part of the Brotherhood but warns him Fuentes is highly protected. He always travel with heavy security. Manzano questions Paul, who describes John as an artist of death. Paul explains that Now that John is determined to seek revenge, he will not show mercy to anyone involved in the kidnapping. Mariana persuades Manzano to join forces with John in his war against the La Hermandad. John hits Fuentes' motorcade with a rocket-propelled grenade, then kidnaps the officer and plants a bomb inside his butt. When he informs the terrified man about the bomb, the officer quickly confesses that his team had ambushed the ransom drop but later learned that most of the ransom money had already been stolen by Jordan Kalfas, Samuel's lawyer. After killing Fuentes, John raids Kalfas' house, but he finds Kalfas' decapitated body in a pool. He also discovers a fax containing bank account details that leads to Samuel. John confronts Samuel at the Ramos residence, and Lisa walks in. He suspects she is in on it too. Samuel admits that it was Kalfas' idea to arrange Pita's kidnapping in order to collect the insurance money to pay off his father's debts. Ramos disclosed that the plan was he would take $5 million and the remaining split $2.5 million each between Jordan and The Voice. He says they assured him Pita would not be harmed. When Fuentes interrupted the ransom drop, he blames Kalfas for Pita's death and killed him. Lisa, unaware of Samuel's role, furiously demands that John kills her husband, or she will do it herself. John leaves Samuel with a gun and the same bullet he had intended to use to end his own life, and a remorseful Samuel takes his own life. Mariana and Manzano track the ATM card to Rena Roses, The Voice's wife, who has gone to a slum to hide with her brother-in-law, Aurelio. But Manzano manages to locate the house, and his officers infiltrate her home and retrieve a photo of The Voice. Despite the Brotherhood's threats, Mariana publishes the photo and passes the address on to John. John travels to Rena's hideout and captures her and Aurelio, but he is shot in the chest during the chaos. He discovers the real name of The Voice is Daniel Sanchez. He calls Daniel and threatens his family, but Daniel reveals that Pita is alive and proposes an exchange. His family for Pita and John's life for his dead nephew. Struggling to believe that Pita was still alive, John skeptically asks Daniel to prove her identity by revealing the name of her teddy bear. Daniel leaves the room momentarily, then comes back and tells John the bear's name is Creasy. With this, John finally accepts that Pita is still alive and in Daniel's custody. Trusting the proof, John agrees to the exchange without hesitation. John calls Lisa, but she tells him she can't bear any false hope. But John instructs her to meet him at the exchange point. John takes Aurelio to the designated exchange site where Danielle's men were already waiting. John instructs Lisa to release his Aurelio once Pita is safe. If not, she should kill him. John crosses the bridge, his heart pounding as he nears the exchange. The moment he sees Pita, he almost collapsed. Pita is released, and she dashes towards him with all her strength. The sight of her alive and safe overwhelms John with emotion, his eyes welling with tears. He never imagined he'd see her again, and the sheer joy of their reunion is beyond words. John tells her he loves her before sending her to her mother. He's captured by Daniel's men, but not without Pita's protest. And though John succumbs to his injuries, he dies peacefully, feeling a sense of contentment. Manzano tracks down Daniel and kills him during his arrest. Then, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more movie recaps.